Oh my God, sitting in, oh God, it's like 80 something out here. Believe it or not, in Houston, Texas. Oh my God, but the clouds are looking great and the sky is blue. But other than that, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to start off on page 53. And then, weather permitting, maybe hopefully get to page 57. Okay, so I don't have the cape on because it's hot outside and I don't want anyone passing out or whatever. If you're in AC land or in a nice, cool climate, great. But I have water. I am prepared. But other than that, I'm good. Okay. Okay. So, um, at the top, page 53, still in chapter 2, A Shadow of the Past. Um, and I'm going to start at long after. Okay, long after, but still very long ago, there lived by the banks of the great river on the edge of Wilderland a clever-handed and quiet-footed little people. I guess they were of hobbit kind, akin to the fathers of the stores, for they loved the river, and often swam in it, or made little boats of reeds. There was among them a family of high repute, for it was large and wealthier than most, and it was ruled by a grandmother of the folk, stern and wise in old lore, such as they had. The most inquisitive and curious minded of that family was called Smiggle. He was interested in roots and beginnings. He dived into deep pools. He burrowed under trees and growing plants. He tunneled into green mounds, and he ceased to look up at the hilltops or the leaves on trees or the flowers opening in the air. His head and his eyes were downward. He had a friend called Diego of some similar sort, sharper eyed but not so quick and strong. On a time, they took a boat and went down to the Gladden fields, where there were great beds of iris and flowering reeds. Then Smiggle got out and went nosing about the banks, but Daigle sat in the boat and fished. Suddenly, a great hook took his hook. Yep, yep. So he had a great fish. So a great fish took his hook, and before he knew where he was dragged down into the water to the bottom. And then he let go of his line, for he thought he saw something shining in the riverbed. And holding his breath, he grabbed at it. Then up he came, sputtering, with weeds in his hair and a handful of mud. and he swam to the bank. And behold, when he washed the mud away, there in his hand lay a beautiful golden ring, and it shone and glittered in the sun, so that his heart was glad. But Schmigel had been watching him from behind a tree, and as the eagle gloated over the ring, Schmigel came up softly up behind. "Give us that, Diggle, my love," said Schmigel over his friend's shoulder. "Why?" said Diggle. "Because it's my birthday, my love, and I want it," said Schmigel. "I don't care," said Diggle. "I have given you a present already, more than I could afford. I found this, and I'm going to keep it." "Oh, are you indeed, my love?" said Smeagol, and he caught Diggle by the throat and strangled him because the gold looked so bright and beautiful. Then he put the ring on his finger. No one ever found out what had become of Diggle. He was murdered far from home, and his body was cunningly hidden. But Smeagol returned alone, and he found that none of his family could see him. When he was wearing the ring, he was very pleased with his discovery and concealed it. And he used it to find out secrets, and he put his knowledge to crooked and malicious uses. He became sharp-eyed and keen-eared for all that was hurtful. The ring had given him power according to his stature. It is not to be wondered at that he became very unpopular and was shunned, very visible by all his relations. They kicked him, and he bit their feet. He took to thieving and going about muttering to himself and gurgling in his throat. So they called him Gollum and cursed him and told him to go far away. And his grandmother, desiring peace, expelled him from the family and turned him over to her out of her home. He wandered in loneliness, weeping a little for the hardness of the world. And he journeyed up the river till he came to a stream that flowed from the mountains, and he went that way. He caught fish in deep pools with invisible fingers and ate them raw. One day it was very hot, and he was bending over a pool, and he felt a burning on the back of his head, and a dazzling light from the water pained his wet eyes. He wondered at it, for he had almost forgotten about the sun. Then, for the last time, he looked up and shook his fist at her. But he lowered his eyes. He saw far ahead of the tops of the misty mountains, out of which the stream came, and he thought suddenly, it would be cool and shady under those mountains. The sun could not watch me there. The roots of those mountains must be roots indeed. There must be great secrets buried there which have not been discovered since the beginning. Ooh. So he journeyed by night up to the highlands, and he found a little cave out of which the dark stream ran, and he wormed his way like a maggot into the heart of the hills, and vanished out of all knowledge. The ring went into the shadows with him, and even the maker. When his power had begun to grow again, could learn nothing of it. Gollum, cried Frodo. Gollum? Do you mean that this is the very gone creature that Bilbo met? How loathsome! I think it is a sad story, said the wizard, and it might have happened to others, even to some hobbits that I have known. I can't believe that Gollum was connected with hobbits, however distantly, said Frodo with some heat. What an abominable notion. Yes, it is true all the same, replied Gandalf, about their origins, at any rate. I know more than hobbits do themselves, and even Bilbo's story suggests the kinship. There was a great deal in the background of their minds and memories that this was very similar. They understood one another remarkably well, very much better than a hobbit would understand, say, a dwarf or an orc or even an elf. Think of the riddles they both knew, for one thing. Yes, said Frodo, though other folks besides hobbits ask riddles, and of much the same sort. And hobbits don't cheat. Gollum meant to cheat all the time. He was just trying to put poor Bilbo off his guard. And I dare say it amused his wickedness to start a game which might end in providing him with an easy victim. But if he lost, would not hurt him. Only too true, I fear, said Gandalf. But there was something else in it, I think, which you don't see yet. Even Gollum was not wholly ruined. He had proved tougher than even one of the wise would have guessed, as a hobbit might. There was a little corner of his mind that was still his own, and light came through it, as through a chink in the dark. Light out of the past. It was actually pleasant, I think, to hear a kindly voice again, bringing up memories of wind and trees and sun on the grass and such forgotten things. But that, of course, would only make the evil part of him angrier in the end, unless it could be conquered, unless it could be cured. Gandalf sighed. Alas, there is little hope of that for him. Yet not no hope. No, not though he possessed the ring so long. almost as far as back as he can remember, for it was long since he had worn it much. In the black darkness it was seldom needed. Certainly he had never faded. He is thin and tough still. But the thing was eating up his mind, of course, and the torment had become almost unbearable. All the secrets under the mountains had turned out to be a just just empty night. There was nothing more to find out, nothing worth doing. Only nasty furtive eating and resentful remembering. He was altogether wretched. He hated the dark and hated light more. He hated everything, and the ring most of all. What do you mean? Said Frodo. Surely the ring was his precious and the only thing he cared for. But if he hated it, why didn't he get rid of it or go away and leave it? You ought to begin to understand, Frodo, after all you have heard, said Gandalf. He hated it and loved it, as he hated and loved himself. He could not get rid of it. He had no will left in the man. A ring of power looks after itself, Frodo. It may slip off treacherously, but its keeper never abandons it. At most, he plays with the idea of handing it on to someone else's care, and that only at an early stage, when it first begins to grip. But as far as I know, Bilbo alone in history has never gone beyond playing and really done it. He needed all my help too. And even so, he would never have just forsaken it or cast it aside. It was not Gollum, Frodo, but the ring itself that decided things. The ring left him. What? Just in time to meet Bilbo, said Frodo. Wouldn't an orc have suited it better? It is no laughing matter, said Gandalf. Not for you. It was the strangest event in the whole history of the ring so far. Bilbo's arrival just at that time and putting his hand on it blindly in the dark. There was more than one power at work, Frodo. The ring was trying to get back to its master. It had slipped from Isildur's hand and betrayed him. And then when a chance came, it caught poor Diego, and he was murdered. And after that, Gollum, and it had devoured him. It could make no further use of him. He was too small and mean, and as long as it stayed with him, he would never leave his deep pool again. So now, when its master was awake once more and sending out his dark thought from Mirkwood, it abandoned Gollum, only to be picked up by the most unlikely person imaginable, Bilbo from the Shire. Behind that, there was something else at work. Beyond any design of the ringmaker, I can't put it no plainer than by saying that Bilbo was meant to find the ring, and not by its maker. In which case you also were meant to have it. And that may be an encouraging thought. It is not, said Frodo. Though I am not sure that I understand you. But have you learned all this about the ring and about Gollum? Do you really know it all? Or are you just guessing still? Gandalf looked at Frodo, and his eyes glinted. I knew much, and I have learned much, he answered. But I am not going to give an account of all my doings to you. The history of Elendil and Elzar and the One Ring is known to all the wise. The ring is shown to be the One Ring by the fire writing alone, apart from any other evidence. And when did you discover that? Asked Frodo, interrupting. Just now in this room, of course, answered the wizard sharply. But I expected to find it. I have come back from dark journeys and long search to make that final test. It is the last proof, and all is now only too clear. Making out Gollum's part and fitting it into the gap in the history required some thought. I may have started with guesses about Gollum, but I am not guessing now. I know. I have seen him. You have seen him? Seen Gollum? Exclaimed Frodo in amazement. Yes. The obvious thing to do, of course, if one could. I tried long ago, but I have managed it at last. Then what happened after Bilbo escaped from him? Do you know that? Not so clearly. What I have told you is that what Gollum was willing to tell, though not, of course, in the way I have reported it. Gollum is a liar, and you have to sift his words. For instance, he called the ring his birthday present, and he stuck to that. He said it came from his grandmother, who had lots of beautiful things of that kind. A ridiculous story. I have no doubt that Smeagol's grandmother was a matriarch, a great person in her way. But to talk of her possessing many elfin rings was absurd. And as for giving them away, it was a lie, but a lie with the grain of truth. The murder of Dagel haunted Gollum, and he made up a defense, repeating it to his precious over and over again, as he gnawed his bones in the dark until he almost believed it. It was his birthday. Dagel ought to have given the ring to him. It had obviously turned up just so as to be a present. It was his birthday present, and so on, and on. I endured him as long as I could, but the truth was desperately important, and in the end, I had to be harsh. I put the fear of fire on him and wrung the true sword out of him bit by bit, together with much sniveling and snarling. He thought he was misunderstood and ill-used. But when he had at last told me his history, as far as the end of the riddle game and Bilbo's escape, he would not say any more, except in dark hints. Some other fear was on him, greater than mine. He muttered that he was going to get his own back. People would see if he would stand being kicked and driven into a hole and then robbed. Gollum had good friends now. Good friends and very strong. They would help him. Baggins would pay for it. And that was his chief thought. He hated Bilbo and cursed his name. What is more, he knew where he came from, but how did he find that out? Asked Frodo. Well, as for the name, Bilbo was very foolishly told Gollum himself, and after that it would not be difficult to discover his country. Once Gollum came out, oh yes, he came out, longing for the ring proved stronger than his fear of the orcs, or even of the light. After a year or two, he left the mountains. You see, though still bound by desire of it, the ring was no longer devouring him. He began to revive a little. He felt old, terribly old, yet less timid. And he was mortally hungry. Light of sun and moon. He still feared and hated, and he always will, I think. But he was cunning. He found he could hide from daylight and moonshine and make his way swiftly and softly by dead of night with his pale, cold eyes and catch small, frightened, or unwary things. He grew stronger and bolder with new food and new air. He found his way into Mirkwood, as one would expect. Is that where you found him? Asked Frodo. I saw him there, answered Gandalf. But before that, he had wandered far, following Bilbo's trail. It was difficult to learn anything from him for certain, for his talk was constantly interrupted by curses and threats. What had it got in his pockets? He said. It wouldn't say no precious little cheat. Not a fair question. It cheated first. It did. It broke the rules. We ought to have squeezed it. Yes, precious. And we will, precious. That is a sample of his talk. I don't suppose you want any more. I had weary days of it. But from hints dropped among the snarls, I gathered that his padding feet had taken him at last to Exgirls and even to the streets of Dale. Listening secretly and peering. Well, the news of the great events went far and wide in Wilderland, and many had heard Bilbo's name and knew where he came from. We had made no secret of our return journey to his home in the west. Gollum's sharp ears would soon learn what he wanted. Then why didn't he track Bilbo further? Asked Frodo. Why didn't he come to the Shire? Ah, said Gandalf. Now we come to it. I think Gollum tried to. He set out and came back westward, as far as the great river, but then he turned aside, and he was not daunted by the distance, I am sure. No, something else drew him away. So my friends think. Those that hunted him for me. The wood elves tracked him first, an easy task for them, for his trail was still fresh then. Through Mirkwood and back again, it led them, though they never caught him. The wood was full of the rumor of him, dreadful tales even among beasts and birds. The woodmen said that there was some new terror abroad, a ghost that drank blood. It climbed trees to find nests. It crept into holes to find the young. It slipped through windows to find cradles. But at the western edge of Mirkwood, the trail turned away. But at the western edge of Mirkwood, the trail turned away. It wandered off southwards and passed out the wood elves' ken, and was lost. And then I made a great mistake. Yes, Frodo, and not the first, though I fear it may prove the worst. I let the matter be. I let him go, for I had much else to think of at that time, and I still trusted the lore of the Saruman. Well, that was years ago. I had paid for it since with many dark and dangerous days. The trail was long cold when I took it up again after Bilbo left it here, and my search would have been in vain but for the help that I had from my friend Aragorn, the greatest traveler and huntsman of this age of the world. Together we sought for Gollum down the whole length of Wilderland without hope and without success. But at last, when I had given up the chase and turned to other paths, Gollum was found. My friend returned out of great perils, bringing the miserable creature with him. What he had been doing, he would not say. He only wept and called us cruel, with many a Gollum in his throat. And when we pressed him, he whined and cringed and rubbed his long hands, licking his fingers as if they pained him, as if he remembered some old torture. But I am afraid there is no possible doubt. He had made his slow, sneaking way, step by step, mile by mile, south and down at last to the land of Mordor. A heavy silence fell in the room. Frodo could hear his heart beating. Even outside, everything seemed still. No sound of Sam's shears could now be heard. Yes to Mordor, said Gandalf. Alas, Mordor draws all wicked things, and the dark power was bending all its will to gather them there. The ring of the enemy would leave its mark too, leave them open to the summons, and all folk were whispering then of the new shadow of in the south and its hatred of the west. There were his fine new friends who would help him in his revenge. Wretched fool! In that land he would learn much, too much for his comfort, and sooner or later, as he lurked and pried on the borders, he would be caught and taken for examination. That was the way of it, I fear. When he was found, he had already been there long and was on his way back on some errand of mischief. But that does not matter much now. His worst mischief was done. Yes, alas, through him the enemy has learned that the one has been found again. He knows where Isildur fell. He knows where Gollum found his ring. He knows that it is a great ring, for it gave long life. He knows that it is not one of the three, for they have never been lost, and they endure no evil. He knows that it is not one of the 7 or the 9, for they are accounted for. He knows that it is the one. And he has at last, I think, of hobbits in the Shire. The Shire, he may be seeking for it now. If he has not already found out where it lies. Indeed, Frodo, I fear that he may even think that the long unnoticed name of Baggins has become important. But this is terrible, cried Frodo, far worse than the worst that I imagined from your hints and warnings. Oh, Gandalf, best of friends, what am I to do? For now I am really afraid. What am I to do? What a pity that Bilbo did not stab that foul creature when he had the chance. Pity. It was pity that stayed his hand. Pity and mercy. Not to strike without need. And he has been well rewarded, Frodo. Be sure that he took so little hurt from the evil and escaped in the end, because he began his ownership of the ring so, with pity. I am sorry, said Frodo, but I am frightened, and I do not feel any pity for Gollum. You have not seen him, Gandalf broke in. No, I do not want to, said Frodo. I can't understand you. Do you mean to say that you and the elves have let him live on all those horrible deeds? Now, at any rate, he is as bad as an orc and just an enemy. He deserves death. Deserves it. I dare say he does. Many that deserve death, and some that die deserve life. Can you give it to them? Then do not be too eager to deal out death in judgment. For even the very wise cannot see all ends. I have not much hope that Gollum could be cured before he dies. But there is a chance of it, and he is bound up with the fate of the ring. My heart tells me that he has some part to play yet, for good or ill, before the end. And when it comes, and the pity of Bilbo may rule the fate of many, yours not least. In any case, we did not kill him. He is very old and very wretched. The wood elves have him in prison, but they treat him with such kindness as they can find in their wise hearts. All the same, said Frodo, even if Bilbo could not kill Gollum, I wish I had not cast the ring. I wish he had never found it, and that I had not got it. Why did you let me keep it? Why didn't you make me throw it away or destroy it? Let you? Make you? Said the wizard. Haven't you to haven't you been listening to all that I have said? You are not thinking of what you are saying. That as for throwing it away, that was obviously wrong. These rings have a way of being found. In evil hands, it might have done evil. Worst of all, it might have fallen into the hands of the enemy. Indeed, it certainly would. For this is the one, and he is exerting all his power to find it or draw it to himself. Of course, my dear Frodo, it was dangerous for you, and that has troubled me deeply. But there was so much at stake that I had to take some risk. Though even when I was far away, there has never been a day when the Shire has not been guarded by watchful eyes, as long as you never used it. But I did not think that the ring would have any lasting effect on you, not for evil. Not at any rate for a very long time. And you must remember that 9 years ago, when I last saw you, I still knew you little for certain. Well, why not destroy it as you should have been done long ago? Cried Frodo again. If you had warned me or even sent me a message, I would have done away with it. Would you? How would you? How would you do that? Have you ever tried? No, but I suppose you could hammer it or melt it. Try, said Gandalf. Try now. Frodo drew out the ring out of his pocket again and looked at it. It now appeared plain and smooth, without mark or device that he could see. The gold looked fair and pure, and Frodo thought, how rich and beautiful was its color. How perfect was its roundness. It was an admirable thing, and together precious. When he took it out, he had intended to fling it from him to the very hottest part of the fire. But he found out now that he could not do so, not without a great struggle. He weighed the ring in his hand, hesitating and forcing himself to remember all that Gandalf had told him. And then, with an effort of will, he made a movement as if to cast it away, and he found that he had put it back in his pocket. Gandalf laughed grimly. You see, you too, Frodo, cannot easily let it go, nor will to damage it. And I could not make you except by force, which would break your mind. But as for breaking the ring, force is useless. Even if you took it and struck it with a heavy sledgehammer, it would make no dent in it. It cannot be unmade by your hands or by mine. Your small fire, of course, will not melt even ordinary gold. This ring is already passed through its unscathed or even unheated. But there is no smith's forge in this shire that could change it at all. Not even the anvils and furnaces of the dwarfs could do that. It has been said that dragon fire could melt and consume the rings of power. But there is not now any dragon left on earth in which the old fire is hot enough. Nor was there any dragon, not even Akalon, the Black, who could have formed the one ring, the ruling ring, for that was made by Sauron himself. There is only one way to find the cracks of doom in the depths of Orduin. Is it Orduin? Um, the Fire Mountain, and cast the ring in there. If you really wish to destroy it, to put it beyond the grasp of the enemy forever, I do really wish to destroy it, cried Frodo. Oh well, to have it destroyed. I am not made for perilous quests. I wish I had never seen the ring. Why did it come to me? Why was I chosen? Such questions cannot be answered. you you may be sure that it was not for any merit that others do not possess, not for power or wisdom at any rate, but you have been chosen, and you must therefore use such strength and heart and wits as you have. But I have so little of any of these things. You are wise and powerful. Will you not take the ring? No, cried Gandalf, springing to his feet. With that power, I should have power too great and terrible. And over me the ring would gain a power still greater and more deadly. His eyes flashed, and his face was lit as by a fire within. Do not tempt me, for I do not wish to become the Dark Lord himself. Yet the way of the ring to my heart is by pity for weakness and the desire of strength to do good. Do not tempt me. I dare not take it, not even to keep it safe, unused. The wish to wield it would be too great for my strength. I shall have such need of it. Great perils lie before me. He went to the window and drew aside the curtains and the shutters. Sunlight streamed back again into the room. Sam passed along the path outside whistling. And now, said the wizard, turning back to Frodo, the decision lies with you. But I will always help you. He laid his hand on Frodo's shoulder. I will help you bear this burden and as it is yours to bear. But we must do something soon. The enemy is moving. There was a long silence. Gandalf sat down again and puffed at his pipe as if lost in thought. His eyes seemed closed, but under the lids he was watching Frodo intently. Frodo gazed fixedly at the red embers on the hearth until they filled his vision, and he seemed to be looking down into profound wells of fire. And he was thinking of the fabled cracks of doom and the terror of the fiery mountain. Well, said Gandalf at last, what are you thinking about? Have you decided what to do? No, answered Frodo, coming back to himself out of darkness and finding to his surprise that it was not dark and that out of the window he could see the sunlit garden, or perhaps yes. As far as I understand what you said, I suppose I must keep the ring and guard it, at least for the present, whatever it may do to me. Whatever it may do. It may be slow to evil. If you keep it with that purpose, said Gandalf. I hope so, said Frodo. But I hope that you find some other better keeper soon. But in the meanwhile, it seems that I am in a danger to all that live near me. I cannot keep the ring and stay in. I ought to leave Baghdad, leave the Shire, leave everything, and go away, he sighed. I should like to save the Shire, if I could, though there have been times when I thought the inhabitants too stupid and dull for words, and have felt that an earthquake or an invasion of dragons would be good for might be good for them. But I don't feel like that now. I feel that as long as the Shire lies behind, safe and comfortable, I shall find wandering more bearable. I shall know now. I shall know that somewhere there is a firm foothold, even if my feet cannot stand there again. Of course, I have sometimes thought of going away, but I imagine that as a kind holiday, a series of adventures like Bilbo's are better, ending in peace. But this would mean exile, a flight from danger into danger, drawing it after me. And I, and, yeah, and I suppose I must go alone. If I am to do that and save the Shire, but I feel very small and very uprooted and desperate. The enemy is so strong and terrible. He did not tell Gandalf, but as he was speaking, a great desire to follow Bilbo flamed up in his heart to follow Bilbo, and even perhaps to find him again. It was so strong that it overcame his fear. He could almost have run out there and then down the road without his hat, as Bilbo had done on a similar morning long ago. My dear Frodo, exclaimed Gandalf, hobbits really are amazing creatures. As I have said before, you can learn all that there is to know about their ways in a month, and yet after 100 years, they can still surprise you at a pinch. I hardly expected to get such an answer, not even from you. But Bilbo made no mistake in choosing his ear, though he little thought how important it would prove. But I am afraid you are right. The ring will not be able to stay hidden in the Shire much longer. And for your own sake, as well as for others, you will have to go and leave the name of Baggins behind you. That name will not be safe to have outside the Shire or in the wild. I will give you a traveling name now. When you go as Mr. Underhill. But I don't think you need to go alone. Not if you know anyone you can trust. And who would be willing to go by your side. And that you would be willing to take into unknown perils. But if you look for a companion, be careful in choosing. And be careful of what you say. even to your closest friends. The enemy has many spies and many ways of hearing. Suddenly he stopped as if listening. Frodo became aware that all was very quiet, inside and outside. Gandalf crept to one side of the window, and then with a dart he sprang to the sill and thrust a long arm out and downwards. There was a squawk, and up came Sam Gamgee's curly head, mauled, hauled by one ear. Hauled by one ear. Well, well, bless my beard, said Gandalf. Sam Gamgee, is it? Now, what may you be doing? Lord bless you, Mr. Gandalf, sir, said Sam. Nothing. Leastways, I was just trimming the grass border under the window. If you follow me, he picked up his shears and exhibited them as evidence. I don't, said Gandalf grimly. It is some time since I last heard the sound of your shears. Now, how long have you been eavesdropping? Eavesdropping, sir? I don't follow you. Begging your pardon? There ain't no eaves in begging, and that's a fact. Don't be a fool. What have you heard? And why did you listen? Gandalf's eyes flashed and his brows stuck out like bristles. Mr. Frodo, sir, cried Sam, quaking. Don't let him hurt me, sir. Don't let him turn me into anything unnatural. My old dad would take on so. I meant no harm. On my honor, sir. He won't hurt you, said Frodo, hardly able to keep from laughing, although he was himself startled and rather puzzled. He knows as well as I do that you mean no harm. But just you up and answer his questions right away, straight away. Well, sir, said Sam, dithering a little, I heard a deal that I didn't hardly understand about an enemy and rings and Bilbo, sir, and dragons and a fiery mountain and elves, sir. I listened because I couldn't help myself. And if you know what I mean, Lord bless me, sir, but I do love tales of that sort, and I believe them too. Whatever Ted may say, elves, sir, I would dearly love to see them. Couldn't you take me to see elves, sir, when you go? Suddenly, Gandalf laughed. Come inside, he shouted, and putting out both his arms, he lifted the astonished Sam, shears and grass clippings and all, right through the window, and stood him right on the floor. Take, take you to see elves, eh? He said, eyeing Sam closely, but with a smile flicking on his face. So you heard that Mr. Frodo was going away. I did, sir, and that's why I showed, which you heard seemingly. I tried not to, sir, but it burst out of me. I was so upset. It can't be helped, Sam, said Frodo sadly. He suddenly realized that flying from the Shire would be more painful partings than merely saying farewell to the familiar comforts of Bagan. I shall have to go, but and here he looked hard at Sam. If you really care about me, you would keep that dead secret. See, if you don't, if you even breathe a word of what you've heard here, then I hope Gandalf will turn you into a spotted toad and fill the garden full of grass snakes. Sam fell on his knees, trembling. Get up, Sam, said Gandalf. I have thought of something better than that. Something to shut your mouth and punish you properly for listening. You shall go away with Mr. Frodo. Me, sir, cried Sam, springing up like a dog invited for a walk. Me go and see elves and all? Hooray! He shouted and then burst into tears. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop here. I know I got into it and I had to go ahead and read forward. And I went ahead to page 64. So the next chapter is chapter 3. 3 is company. So I'm going to go ahead and take a break for now. And I'm going to go ahead and relax a little bit, do some stuff. But if I do, it's going to be a taping and it may be released later in the day, maybe not. I did read enough for 2 days, or for that's what feels like it, but it's mainly one day. I have been eating off and on, but in between takes and stuff like that. But I have been taking a break and doing stuff, stuff around the house, and making sure things are taken care of. But anyway, I'm up now for today. I could just do nothing, but I'm just saying. But it's getting very interesting, and it's getting to where it's warming up, and don't you feel it? I'm excited. If you're not excited, I'm excited anyway. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and let everyone go, and let everyone and wonder what and discuss what they have heard today, and maybe besides the helicopters and all this other stuff. I'm sorry, because people, I don't know why they're doing helicopters today. They never really do. Oh, wardrobe malfunction. Elf down, elf down. No, I picked myself up. There you go. No, so anyway, yeah. So they have been doing some crazy stuff, and they've been doing some ice Black Hawks or around here in Houston, and so it's no surprise. But anyway, the guys, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and stop, take a breather. It is warm outside, but anyway, I'm enjoying the weather. It's like 80 something, but it feels I don't know, my temperature modulator, because I have a heat zone shot, I think, but I don't know. It's I think it was kicking in, and that I feel like it's more like 75, but not 80 something. I don't know. I like it when I feel cooler when it's too hot, but I don't like to be too, you know. But anyway, besides people, later. Take care.